So it's that time of the year when we start testing for capacitors during no cooling calls, system inspections, or maintenances. Here you see me testing a capacitor for a fan. I remove the wires on top of it and set my meter to microfarads. I am taking a reading and it's climbing up little by little. This capacitor is rated at 7.5 microfarads. It stopped at 6.9. This is the typical way of doing it to test a capacitor with your meter. On this other example, you see me testing now the second capacitor, which is the one that runs with the compressor. I take the wires off and I'll take a reading. This is a 70 microfarad capacitor. You're going to see my meter climb up little by little. Sometimes this happens when your meter doesn't have a good battery. This one has a brand new one. So you can see that it starts climbing up little by little. Sometimes you just test your capacitor and it gives you a reading right away. In this case, let's see this one. This one's going to climb up to close to 69. But the thing is, how do we test a capacitor under loaded conditions? How will a capacitor perform when it's actually has voltage running through it, when it has a motor or a compressor running through it? So this one, we're at 69.4.5. Our capacitor is a 70 microfarad capacitor. It has a tolerance of 6%, so we're definitely in range. So what we're going to discuss now with these steps is the following. Take an amp reading at the start winding wire connected to the capacitor. So you're going to grab your clamp and hook it up to that wire, the start wire that goes onto the capacitor. Step number 2, take a voltage reading across the capacitor connections. You're going to measure the voltage across the connections on top of your capacitor. And step number 3, you will plug in those numbers into this formula. Amps times 2650, which is our constant, divided by the voltage that you took on top of the capacitor. And that number will tell you the actual microfarads that your capacitor is delivering to that motor. That is a more accurate way of testing your capacitors, because I don't know if some of you have gone through that, where you tested your capacitor, you told the customer it's good, then you leave the house and 2 days later or a week later they call and guess what? The same capacitor you told them it was good, it's actually bad. So this is a tip from Innovatek1.com. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to our channel and newsletter to stay updated for more snippets like this. Have a good one.